What's up guys, Russ Simon here, and if you know me, you know I like the Nintendo Switch and I enjoy modding it. I got these custom Joy-Cons that are see-through. They kind of mimic the controllers that came out on the N64. Now while this is pretty cool and all, I actually grown kind of tired of it. They show up great in the light, but dark situations it's kind of hard to see them, just like this, and I want something that pops a little bit more. And with the release of the Switch Lite, two new colors came to the Switch that popped. I really like them. A nice bright yellow and turquoise color. And that got me thinking. So I went to the store and grabbed me some spray paint and we're gonna customize my Switch. So I'm gonna show you how to take apart the Switch and the Joy-Cons, paint them, and put it all back together. And well, let's hope it still works. So let's get started.
Russ, what you doing? Russ, what you doing? Russ, what you doing? Let's find out!
Well, first things first, you definitely want to shut your Switch off completely. We'll detach the Joy-Cons for now and we'll just work on this unit here. I'm gonna have to remove my stickers that I have. Well, the first step is to take apart the Nintendo Switch. I'm starting with the back plate on the Switch itself. It's only held together by a couple of screws on the four corners and one hidden under the kickstand as well. And there is also one that's hidden behind the kickstand here. If you just pry back on that, that just pops right off and you have to take your SD card out. Don't lose that. And I have these little magnetic screwdrivers so they can hold the tiny screws so we don't lose any. So tiny. Don't lose that one. And a good way to keep track of what screws go where, you can use tape and label what screw is what. And there's two Phillips screws right by the charging dock. And one up here by the vents. A bunch of screws where the Joy-Cons attach to. Alright, once you get the last screw out, the rods will be kind of loose, but you don't want to pull on them because there's a ribbon cable in here that attaches it, so when you slide on your Joy-Cons, they charge. There we go. And there's that little ribbon cable I was talking about, so you want to make sure you don't damage that. So I do have the two decals back here, so I'll just have to pull those up. You can use a razor blade. By me.
Oh no!
Once that was off, it was on to prep. I sanded with 400 grit sandpaper just to give the primer something to bite to. And then I cleaned everything with a rubbing alcohol / water solution. I did a 50-50 mixture and I used that to clean all of my stuff before I paint them. And the paint that I chose is a Rust-Oleum flat white primer. I primed all the pieces white, so this way they all had an even color when I laid down the base coat. All the white pieces though, I did leave the primer white and they just became gloss when I added the gloss coat. And here are the Joy-Cons. Again, it has a pretty cool look to it with these see-through ones here. I didn't change the inner buttons there or there from my original, but yeah, pretty neat, but let's switch it up. Now these are tri-wing screws, so you'll need a specialty screwdriver to get them out. Once all the pieces were prepped, sanded, and ready to go, I taped them down with just some masking tape to some cardboard. This way when you spray the spray paint, they won't go blowing all over the place. There's a lot of small parts with these buttons and you don't want to lose them. Now for the base coat, I chose Valspar. They had a nice teal color and the exact color of this is called Exotic Sea. It just had a nice bright color. This is a paint and primer, so technically I could have just used this to paint the Joy-Cons and the case as well, but figured the white was a nice base coat to start with. This way it pops even more because of the nice light color it's applied over. And I love the tops that these cans have. It's a spray in any direction, so you don't have to worry about only being able to spray forward. You can flip it upside down like that and spray. And always make sure you shake your cans. And again, it's just multiple light coats you want to do with this. The primer, I usually lay 2 coats down, and the base coat, I go with 3 coats. Letting them all dry between 10 to 15 minutes. It all depends how hot it is outside. One thing that I see a lot of people do when they custom paint everything, or if they get different Joy-Cons, is that they could only change the back plate to the Switch and the Joy-Cons. They can't do anything with the front of the screen. Of course, you could always use a site like Decal Girl, who offers vinyl decals that will go over that, and it's more of a non-permanent solution. Now, I've done this with things in the past, like my Pro Controller here. I have a video of me designing and making this, and I also did my Wii U gamepad to look like a hoverboard. Definitely a cool option if you don't want to go the painting route. Alright, so what I started to do is tape off the front of the console. I do want to paint this portion here and kind of what shows. Now, wanting to paint the screen, it takes a lot to take everything out inside the Switch. Way too much time that I want to sink into this project. So I taped everything off and was gonna paint it while it was still together. Okay, here's the tablet portion of the Switch right here, all taped up. In the back, I taped up the card slot, the headphone jack, and the vent here, and anything I couldn't tape up, I rolled up some tape, twisted it, and popped it in there so no paint can get in there. Now, I urge you to do not try this at home or do it at your own risk. When you don't take it apart, you chance particles or stuff getting inside the Switch and it not working. Fingers crossed, my Switch still works. Alright, switch to painting outside because the sun is super bright and warm today, and this way in between layers of paint it'll dry a lot faster. And also remember to keep your respirator mask on. Safety first. Alright, here's the Switch back, all painted and clear coated up. Now you do have some options once the paint cures. If you feel any imperfections, you could always go back and wet sand with 1,000 grit, 2,000 grit, very fine sandpaper, and then buff it out. I just ended up applying a wax coat on top, just some turtle wax that you would put on your car. And this way it just gives it that extra coat to it, a little protection, and feels a little bit better on the hands.
Alright, moment of truth. Let's see if it powers up still.
And well, looks like my precaution paid off because the switch still works fine and it sets it off.
Of course I can't start it because my Joy-Cons are apart.
Here is the completed project. As you can see with the front of the screen, it really pulls everything together and flows nicely. Otherwise you'll have this big black gap border between the Joy-Cons, but this just makes it that much better. Now I mostly play my Switch docked on there and I haven't taken it on the go that often, but I think for the future I'm going to be replacing the buttons that I did paint. Fortunately, painting over it, I no longer can see what button is what, and I kind of like to glance down and see that. With some third-party buttons you can buy on Amazon, you can get them white and they have a little indentation at what button is there. And they do have the LNR and ZR buttons that you can get. You can't get the minus and plus button or like the screenshot and home button. Those they don't sell. So I'm happy that I painted them. And hitting it with just the touch of gray so it pops out just a little bit definitely sets it off. I love it on the ZR buttons and even on the top of the console where it has game card and the headphone jack. Just having that subtle detail so it pops off of the blue. Otherwise it'd just be lost in the color. Same thing with the back of the console. I did the vents white and then under the kickstand where the micro SD card slot is. I would like to get a Nintendo Switch vinyl decal to put back here so it looks more stock, so that is another plan in the future. But I hope you guys enjoyed this project and maybe gave you the courage to try it yourself, or at least you were entertained watching me do it. I already fooled a couple friends already thinking that I got the new Switch Lite because of the color scheme and they just didn't notice the Joy-Con separation there. But looking at it fast like this, you might think it is the new Switch Lite. Guys, if you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. I do lots of other DIY projects. I'll have a playlist down below and linked above in case you want to see some of the other stuff that I did. one that I have in the works is I did pick up a second Link amiibo, and I'm going to be customizing it so it matches my Link in the game. I beat the color dungeon, and you get to choose better defense or offense, and I chose defense, so Link is in a blue tunic, so we'll be matching him. So stay tuned for that video coming soon. And make sure to follow me on all social media platforms so you don't miss anything that I put out, guys. And as always, gamers, I'm Russ Lyman, and keep your world fun bit by bit. I'll see you next video. And I want to give a super shout out to all my Patreons: Dan Buchanan, Joey Ellis, George Sandoval, Joseph Riviera, Nintendo, Joe Seavey, David Apuzzo, Maynard, Brian Culpepper, TechWizX, Retro Bros, Matthew Hannigan, One Up John, Diehard Gamer Bros, Alex Kaz, and everyone on my Patreon. Link below if you want to join. And I'll see you later.